Hi, Mridul. Congratulations on all your achievements. Tell us about yourself.
Yes, ma'am. So I'm from Pune. I did my 12th standard in science, and then I did my bachelor's in engineering and mechanical engineering from Pune University.
How come you had an interest in economics?
From actually the way everyone is exposed generally. So from the news, I was inquisitive about what was happening. So I started reading a bit. And then slowly, I like started getting more interested into it. Even for my bachelor's, I had like tried to get admission in Berkeley because that was the first year Berkeley had launched their bachelor's program.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I got into it, but I ended up choosing engineering only because for this, like, since it was a safer option, so to say. So because I
So,
was
so what all entrances you gave and what all did you crack?
this year,
Yes.
um, yeah. So this year I gave CUET, GATE, JAM, and ISI. Out of which I scored 240 in CUET, so I got admitted into DSC via that. I got AR 5 in GATE, so I got into IIT Madras. I got rank 59, I think, in JAM. So in this round, I got IIT Roorkee from that. And ISI got rank 19 and I got in via the first list. First list.
The first list. And what are you choosing?
I'm choosing ISI.
ISI. Yes, ISI.
Yeah.
You always had that thing for ISI? I mean, you had
Yes,
some
ma'am.
list.
Yes, ma'am. ISI has always been the thing. Even I was not aware about other colleges too. Actually, I only knew ISI and DSC, and even of that, I always knew that I wanted to get into ISI only. Because even last year I gave only CUET and IGIDR, I think. So this is my drop year currently. I graduated in 2023. So I couldn't prepare much because in the final year there is a lot of pressure in engineering because of the projects and all of those things. But with my like half, like somewhat I prepared and I gave ISI, of which I couldn't even clear PEA last year. CUET I didn't score very well, and neither did I score an IGIDR. But yeah, I knew I wanted to get into ISI, so like it worked as a nice experience for me because I knew how the
And you
center will be.
career goal. So you need to actually have a career goal. It's not a short-term thing. So even if you
Right.
give one full year for your preparation, it will only help you out for, throughout. When you're sailing through the course also, it will really help you out, I'm sure.
Yes, ma'am. So it
What has been
is.
your journey like? How did you study exactly for these entrances this year when you had time? So were you doing anything else or you totally, were trying to prepare?
I had a job offer, but I left it and then I prepared solely for these entrances this year. I joined ecopoint in June, end June, early July itself. I think it was the first batch of this year. I joined via that only. And I started preparing towards the mid end of July because that's when my semester exams got over of last year.
Hmm.
So I started preparing. I referred to both sir's lectures and your lectures, and also books at the same time. For economics, what I did was I like suppose this is a register. These are 2 pages. I would write on the right side what was taught in the lecture, and I would write the corresponding topic after studying the reference book on the left side of the register.
That's a very
So
good idea, actually. That's a very good idea. I generally tell a lot of students who ask me particularly to always have a scope of adding up from the books and all. We, of course, everything is covered, but sometimes what happens that if you refer to another book, so you get some small little points that you like to add on to your own notes for your
yes, ma'am,
benefit.
and there is a different language which we get to read, so we get to think for ourselves instead
Exactly.
of like what is being taught.
Exactly.
So I used to do that. So I referred Nicholson Snyder for micro, and I referred Dornbusch Fisher for macro. And for maths, I used various different references. I use mostly Chiang, and most of the things means I only required it for optimization in certain topics. But for the most part, I referred to only the lectures and what was taught in the lectures. For statistics, I referred to the first 5 odd chapters of DeVore.
Devo. Yeah. That's a good
Yeah.
book. Yeah.
So I referred to these books, but that was only because those are the books I could get a physical copy of
Yeah.
in my nearest bookshop. So there was no prior thinking that I want to get this book only, that book only. Only the few books which sir and you had recommended, I just wanted to get any one of those. So I went to the local bookstore and
Only
got those.
suggest picking up one book is good enough.
Yeah.
Right.
So I did continue that of the practice of writing on one side the lecture notes and on the other side the book notes, and it helped me revise very well actually, because there are some points which are given in the books. It is explained in such a language in those books that it clicks very well. So so it helped while revising. So while revision, what I did was I referred to my notes as a book, and then I took separate notes from those books. So they had a second set of notes
Okay,
towards the
so
end.
let's talk about note making. So it seems like you were very persistent about note making, right? So
Yes, ma'am.
so one point what I understood is that you used to, left hand side you have your class notes, and then right hand side you were making your own notes from the books. And then
Yes, ma'am.
yeah. So how many times did you get to revise your registers?
I haven't kept a count honestly, but before every entrance, I did revise once. And like while solving past years, also if there was some topic I was stuck on, I would refer to the notes again. So it was also kind of a revision only.
Yeah.
And even during assignments or any other tests, mock tests which were given, if I used to get stuck in a topic, I used to go back and revise that topic and some associated topics. So I
So you were
couldn't
talking
keep.
about how you were revising. Continue with that.
So my revision was basically only like I would look through notes and I would look through problems and whatever was given. And then if I was getting stuck, I would go back to my like theory notes and I would read that topic and do the problems again, which were solved in the class.
Mhm.
Um, Other than that, like it was normal revision only. I was only reading what I had written before. So
Okay.
I didn't was.
So you must have done all the past years, of course. Like
Yes, ma'am. I did DSE and ISI past years and also JAM past years. I think there are two or three of those.
Mhm.
So I did all of those. I did one and a half rounds of DSE and I did like three and a half rounds of ISI in totality.
Great, great. And what about the test series, all the tests that we kept on giving you guys?
So I did most of those tests. I couldn't do all of them. Some of towards the end, what happened was there was too less time, and the tests get very exhausting because I have to do the test once and then I have to look back at what mistakes I've made. I have to do this. So instead, what I did was I did it like an assignment. I just like
Okay.
looked at the tests, and only towards the end it was a few tests, but many tests I did in the normal way, which is to be
How
done.
would you take the test? Like properly sit down for 2 hours and then
Yeah, I would.
solutions.
So the previous night, I would like you give the properly give the test. I'll sit down, do it for 2 hours. The next morning, I will wake up. I'll early morning. I will just look at what I have done wrong, what could have been done better, and then I revise those topics again.
I think that analysis is extremely important actually. Once you
Yes,
analyze your
ma'am.
mistakes, you have to go back to the, basics once again and clarify on those so that you don't make that mistake once again, basically,
Yes, ma'am.
which is extremely important. Now, I would also want to know, since you're from an engineering background, so
Yes, ma'am.
what were the challenges or what was in favor? If you could discuss a little on that.
What was in favor? The one thing I noticed, like even with after talking to my peers and everyone, one thing I noticed that we are much more comfortable with numbers.
Yes.
So that is one thing. But the thing is, in the syllabus which comes in these exams and the syllabus which comes in engineering, so except for the 11, 12 topics, there is very little overlap. There are a lot of things we do partial derivatives in engineering. We do like vector, as in the resolution of vectors, which is mostly done in engineering. But here it was more towards optimization. It was more. We had some statistics. We didn't have it in as much depth. So it was helpful, but the more important thing was there was another thing. So while studying micro, what is most required in this thing is you think critically. You tackle it as a problem and then you solve it step by step. You know your problem, what is the problem, what you need to achieve, and you find out the intermediate steps in between.
Right.
So this approach is very rigorously enforced in engineering.
Right.
So whatever we do is in that form only. It is in a very structured format that this is a problem. This is what I have. This is what I need, and how will I achieve it? That approach of thinking, like problem solving approach, if I were to say. So in microeconomics, while studying any model, so it is best to use that kind of approach only, I
Mm.
feel. So it helps also in like translating theory to numericals. So
Mm.
how will I integrate some functions or equations into it? So that is what is most important, I feel. So that one thing was like very advantageous for me. Obviously, there were many problems I faced with regards to theoretical subjects, which is why I couldn't perform that well in CUET. Otherwise, I could have gotten an IGIDR also, hopefully. But that couldn't happen because subjects like Indian economics, economic history, and theoretical part of things where I need to keep remember things like some things. So which I wasn't able to do. I wasn't very strong at it. But the numerical part I was very strong at. Uh, Also, what engineering, like one disadvantage I had was in macroeconomics. So there is a big picture and there is a small picture, and you're given chunks of it. So I had not studied any of it before.
Right.
So only when I finished the entire course of macro did I understand that how the entire thing is structured. So that was a bit difficult for me, macroeconomics. Most the rest of the part it came with practice. It wasn't particularly very difficult, but like if you put your effort.
Advantage with people who are coming from engineering background, physics background, maths background is just that you don't psych out with maths, which
Yes,
is a
exactly.
part of otherwise some people get very psyched out. Oh, it's so much of maths in it. So the
Yes,
good
ma'am.
thing is that, but of course, there's just a lot of new concepts that you have to definitely learn. And
Yes,
the
ma'am.
application part is not that difficult for you, but where to apply what is something comes with the concepts
And
only.
another thing which just struck me was that while studying optimization, it is very important that you visualize the graphs.
Yeah.
Like where to optimize, what is the maxima, what is the minima, even in like quasi concave, quasi convexity, quasi concavity. It is very difficult for a person who has not studied to imagine how those graphs look.
Right,
How
right.
does a quasi concave function look?
Yeah.
How do level curves look? So those things it helps you visualize coming from an engineering or mathematics background.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Okay, how was your social life in this 1 year? How did you balance your social life, your life, along with academics?
To some
Because you have
extent, it
performed
was.
extremely well. So, I think a lot of students would want to know how, how to balance it out all.
So initial months up until December, I used to take Sunday off.
Okay.
I used to go out, meet with friends. I used to go to the gym. I means it has stopped a bit, but I used to go to the gym pretty regularly,
Mhm.
and that helped me unwind. Also, I used to meet with friends on weekends. I used to take 1 or 2 hours off. I used to go on a walk somewhere. Um, so that is all I did. I didn't go outside. I didn't go on any trips or those kind of things until the exams were over, at least.
And what about social media? Were you active
I
out
I
or?
deleted social media. I wasn't active on any social media. In fact, I did two things which helped me reduce my mobile usage by a lot. So one is what you can do is you can change your display from color to black and white. So that trains your brain to not like look at the mobile. It gets bored very easily. So you're not tempted to look at the mobile. And another thing I did was I disabled my face recognition and fingerprint scanner and all of those things, and I put a very long password.
Oh,
So it created a large entry barrier for me to. So if I have to pick up my phone, my brain will say, like, you have to do all of these things. Why bother?
you know what?
So I used to keep it to the side.
It's sounding a little funny at this moment, but this I'm sure must have been very helpful. It's a very small
Yes, ma'am.
thing that you can do
Yes,
to
ma'am.
restrict yourself, literally train your brain.
Yeah, it literally makes you think like that it is something which won't give you pleasure instantly. So because all of these colors you look at, all of these things, it gives a lot of pleasure to your brain in the moment you look at it.
Yeah, it's a very
So
good point. Thank you for sharing that. I think it can help a lot of us because
that's
the
fine.
same problem with everyone. Time management is
Yes,
a
ma'am.
huge issue.
Yes,
It,
ma'am. I
there's just
was
plenty out here, so time
yeah.
management becomes a huge issue.
WhatsApp was the only like media thing I used. I used to watch videos on YouTube, but that was also on my laptop only. And even on that, I did one thing was like when you log into YouTube, there are a lot of recommendations. So
Right.
there is an like what do you say? There is an app. I don't know which you can like install. There's an add-on that would be a better word or to your browser which you can add which disables all the icons. So you
Okay.
only get what you search for. So you won't get 10 recommendations in the front. So as soon as you open YouTube, for suppose I want to study something, I'm opening YouTube. But then there will be 10 recommendations on 10 other things, and I'll get distracted very easily.
Something I've heard about, but I've never used it practically. There's some add-on that you can put, and only no
Yes.
recommendations would come in. So only what you
Yeah.
comes in.
Yeah.
I
So
think
that was also
that
very
is an
helpful.
important thing. A lot of students can get help out of it actually. Some things, few things, which with which we can change our way of living
Yes,
and
ma'am.
prioritize on time. Great.
Yes, ma'am.
So you've chosen ISI Kolkata. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So
Because I live in Pune, so it is it is almost the same for me.
it's
Either
almost
Delhi
the
or
same.
Kolkata.
Yeah, it's almost the same.
It's,
Right.
so it doesn't matter to me. So I just chose Kolkata because there are many departments over there. So I'll get to have a lot of multidisciplinary interaction. Because there are, when I went for the interview, especially, I saw they had departments on linguistics, they had departments on geology, and all of these other disciplines coming together. So that fascinated me a lot, even when I read about ISA on their website. So there are so many things going on. It fascinates you a lot.
Let's talk about the interview. How was ISI interview? What they asked you? I mean, you coming from engineering background, did they ask you about your background?
Yes, ma'am. So first I came in, my interview was on 18th in the second batch, second half of the program. And my number was the last. So they had multiple panels. They had three panels. And there was a common waiting room and they would call us one by one after the document verification. So after we went in, they asked us to introduce ourselves. I told about my background and those things. So the first thing they asked me was, why did you shift? Again, the same question which everyone asks. So I explained it to them. They were convinced by my explanation. So then they asked, what all math did you study in engineering? So I explained these things I did. So they asked me from a lot of topics. Actually they started with math. So there was some very simple question, I don't remember it, but it was based on functions and some optimization and those things. I solved it on the board, and they asked me to show it by some other approach where I got stuck, and then they helped me and those things. Um, it was, I think, yeah, there was another question on AP and GP and HP. So the inequality between AP, GP, and HP. Um, then they went with macro. So they asked me to explain the entire solo model, how it works, how the convergence happens, all of those things. I answered that. Then they came to micro, and there were very simple questions about indifference curves and about transitivity. Even in transitivity, they went into a little depth that means it was not much, but they asked why can't indifference curves cross, why can't indifference curves be thick, and all of those things. So that was about it. One thing I would like to advise in interviews: just ask what they are, just say what they are asking you. Don't go out of your way to say additional things. Just be your answer should be to the point. Yeah, you have to be very specific. Otherwise, they will like take out some word. It happened to other candidates. Someone was asked, "What subjects did you study?" That person said econometrics, and then they went into so much depth in econometrics, the poor guy couldn't answer it. So be very specific in what you want to answer, because the people sitting in front of you, they're masters in their field.
You can't feed them with something that you are not
Yeah,
thinking about. Yeah.
yeah.
Right. So what are your future plans? I mean, you have thought about your career like 5 years hence.
Yes, ma'am. So initially, first, obviously, I'll finish my master's. After my master's, I actually want to shift to somewhere in investments,
Okay.
specifically, like obviously corporate jobs. So I want to be somewhere in venture capital, or like 5, 6 years down the road. Obviously, you can't get a job in venture capital initially. So in a couple of years, I want to be in venture capital, and then I want to learn about the industry, learn about how startups work, and hopefully one day I'll start my own startup. That is my dream.
That's your okay. That's a nice
Yeah.
It's a career goal, of course. And but I would always suggest, I always suggest all my students, and I would suggest you also, while you are there, you know, try to get as much as you can out of that place in terms of
Yes, ma'am.
academics, actually, in terms of
Yes,
academics.
ma'am.
Corporate will happen, of course, corporate will happen. Just study as if you want to pursue like PhD in the future, okay? And
Yes.
so that you are attached so much with your academics, okay? Because these are the 2 years when you can, gain that. And being in a good institute definitely adds to it. Uh, Definitely, if you want to go for corporate job, go for that. Be the best there, and whatever your career goals are, you already have that focus in your mind. Of course, you will do very well in your life. But just from academics point of view, think as if you would want to pursue PhD someday, so that you work like that out there, and
Yes,
of
ma'am.
course, then the doors are open for you, anytime.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much, Mridul, for sharing such important few little, things about your routine, about your, the entire preparation. Destination, we know the journey is very important, and you've shared so much with us about your journey. Thank you so very much. And it's been a pleasure being attached to, students like you. Thank you so very much for your time.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It has also been my, like, I would say, my honor to be a part of like ecopoint and to study from two good teachers like you and Nishant sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Feel so blessed, really feel so blessed to be attached with people like you. Thank you so much. All the very best, all the times. Thank you.
Thank you so much.